Have a look at that fog that is coming over Jeandre this morning, and the sun is rising. The beautiful colors of yellow in the distance there with this old knobthorn tree. It is a fantastic morning to be starting our day with SafariLIVE, and this morning you'll have David behind the camera, Samuel Chevalier as your presenter, Elvis the Ellie guiding you along your ways, Archer, and there was reports by our lovely viewers around a jackal by the dam. How cool is that? I still haven't seen a jackal. Hopefully we can see a jackal today. We're going to move down that way and see if we can have the opportunity to see it. Otherwise, you heard lions last night. I also heard lions last night. I woke up and I didn't know what was going on, and then I just heard lions roaring and I was like, oh, whoa. So they're very close to camp. And that was very, very exciting to hear that. So they're going to, well, I thought they were coming from the sandy patch area. So Jamie is now in that direction. She's going to go look in that area, see what she can find. And I'm going to go in this direction and see if I can find anything that might be lurking around the dam this morning. So it's going to be an exciting morning. Well, it's going to be whatever it is. We don't know because it's live. We never know what's going to happen on SafariLIVE. We just can only enjoy the beautiful sunrises, sunsets, and the interactions with wilderness as it comes. So let's get going on our venture forth and take a last few moments to take in that beautiful morning. You can't get this. It's just too special when you wake up to this. And to the sounds of different birds. I've already heard hardy-daws going and some of the doves. There was the thickney. There was a full-spotted owlet. So the chorus of birds to the beauty of the sunrise. Nature is welcoming us into this beautiful day. As I said, it was 13 degrees Celsius, so it's a little bit chillier than yesterday. 56 degrees Fahrenheit. So it is a chilly morning. Yesterday I had my big beanie on. This morning I don't. But that's just the way it works sometimes. My ears must just get cold. There's some impala just over here. I'm just going to get into a position where it's more comfortable for Dave to view them. Here we go. You can see the thick coats of the impala. Ooh. Bryan Deer is quite interested to know what makes that deep, almost the growling sound that you are interested in. Well, of course, you know, the guttural. It's the guttural sound. So the impala make a very, very strong sound when they're in the rut season. So I can't. It's so difficult to try and do myself. I'm going to see if I can find that impala that is rutting and hear if we can hear that sound. So I'll do my best to find that this morning. At the moment we can just see females here. But just as we look at these impala, have a look at this nyala that's just to the left of us. So we've started our morning to a beautiful looking impala group, and now we've got this male nyala that has such a beautiful coat. So it's quite a mature bull. You can see that by the horns and by the lovely coating on that nyala. So isn't that exciting? What's interesting here though is that the impala are all looking down as if they've heard something. Some of them are at least. So potentially if we stroll down this little hill, we might be able to find out what might be lurking away from the impala and the nyala. And as we get into the cold mornings, we're going to find more of the plains species coming together in groups, like the zebra, the impala, and the giraffe, many different plains game. And that's when it's going to be really cool to wake up to all these animals on the open areas, because it's much safer for them to be on the open areas at night time, as it gives them the advantage of security. So coming down towards the watering hole, Jeandre Dam. I'm just going to look to see if we can see anything that might be lurking. It is still quite dark. I'm just going to switch off my vehicle as we roll down here, just in case there could be anything lurking. We can't hear it. So there doesn't seem to be any sign of jackal at the moment. I wonder what time it was that you saw that jackal. It's incredible that you saw a jackal here. We're excited for whoever saw that this morning. Jeandre Dam is looking very empty over there. See if we can find some tracks of anything. So it's fairly quiet down by the dam. I couldn't hear any sound of lions roaring in the distance. But we'll pay attention to all the different sounds as we carry on. So, my co-pilot this morning, or co-pilots, is Jamie and James. So let's go to Jamie and see how she's doing on this very cold morning.
I quite like that description of being a co-pilot. It's very entertaining. But a good morning to you all. My name is Jamie and I have Jeandre on camera with me on this lovely, freezing cold, chilly, Arctic-themed sunrise safari. I'm exaggerating slightly. It's not that cold. I'm pretty cold though. Jeandre looks pretty cold at the back as well. And he's getting the full force of the wind chill factor. It's not that cold. It's in the low 50s Fahrenheit, but with the wind chill, it does feel a lot colder. I hear that a lot of you are letting us know about the lives at Arathusa Dam. So basically, probably where we left them, if indeed it is the Salalas still. We had them yesterday afternoon on the sunset safari, and looked as though they were thinking about hunting a baby hippo. There you go. This is for Sam, who's looking for noisy ratting impala. There you go. Bryan deer, isn't that bizarre? Such a strange sound for an antelope to make. You're wondering about what animal makes that sound? A rutting impala. So basically what he's doing there is he is intimidating all the other males in the area, as well as sort of letting the ladies know that he is in peak and fine condition, and therefore capable, I guess, of producing that bizarre groaning, grunting sound that they make. And I remember the first time I heard it as a small child, I was convinced. I think I walked in the Kruger, and in the rest camps in Kruger, you often see a lot of the and at that point I was quite convinced I was about to be eaten by a leopard, until I realized that it was in fact an impala, a leopard or a lion. So very almost a lion out on foot. And
good morning everybody, welcome to the warming part of this chilly morning. It's 13 degrees Celsius. My name is James Henry. On camera from the angle you can see is the enormous Bryan Jeandre. Hello Bryan. And we are standing here with a nyala who was until very recently standing just 3 meters from us, and I don't know if it's the fact the light has yet to sort of fully filter into the earth this morning, but he was completely relaxed with us. He just kind of watched us come up, ate a bit, and then he wandered off down to where he's eating now. He is doing a dance. Yes, he is. Bryan, should we move in here? He's doing his dressage dance, everybody. That's his, it's not actual dressage. It just looks like dressage. He's showing the other male. There are 2 other males through here, and they're showing each other how very big and strong they are. Might also be the intimidating size of Jeandre that is creating the dressage. Look, he's kind of coming out now. Go back a bit. I mean, we're probably about 150 meters out of camp, so we're right there. And he's horning the tree a bit. He is eating it, but he was horning the base of one of the trees there. That leaves his scent. They're not strictly territorial. They will sort of leave their own scent in an area where they like to be. This is a fantastic nyala sighting, everyone. I mean, we're now, what, probably 20 meters from him, Bryan? And he's completely unreactive to us. You won't get anywhere near this close to something like an impala out in the bush, a zebra, a wildebeest. Forget it. And I think it's because these chaps live quite close to the camp, so they're very used to human presence, so they don't worry too much about us when we walk. Oh, look, Bryan. Is he doing what I think he's doing?
Yeah.
The usual story.
Usual story.
So every time I look at an animal, it relieves itself. It's quite a sort of disconcerting thing to see. That nyala is no different. And Voisia Hippie, you want to know, is that a nyala dance? That is absolutely a nyala dance, and he's doing it again. We come through here. What we can do is we can see the white mantle. If you look underneath this bush, you can see the white mantle on his back is standing up. And that's an indication that he's about to do his little dance, or that he's just done it. See how slowly he's walking? He doesn't have arthritis. That's just part of the dance that they do. And you can hear the francolin in the background, sort of complaining. There we go. They always sound so very surprised with what the life has to throw at them. That'll be a crested francolin. That's a very nice start to the morning, I must say. He's doing a fantastic dance. And the others don't seem to be responding. See how he's flicked up that white tail tip? That is amazing. I think this is our most beautiful antelope. The other two in this area, I'm just going to narrate to you what they're doing because Bryan's showing you that one doing his dance. They're just watching us. They're not responding to him at all, which is quite interesting. There's another one, a younger one. Now watch the mantle on, can you see the other one? Watch the mantle on that one's back. Let's see if it stands up. If he too decides that it's necessary to do some dawn dressage. No, seemingly not. There was a lot of bird song this morning. It's a totally clear morning, of course, so the sun is going to come up and it should warm up quite nicely from what is quite a chilly start to our morning. There are doves and orioles and grey-headed bush shrikes going. Francolins, obviously. Red-billed buffalo weavers and drongos and sparrows. Woodpeckers. It's just amazing. And the sounds of impala, who I suspect are wasting their time rutting. I think that the mating has already occurred in this last week. Well, that's a brilliant start. Then, Bryan, once you're done there, I have something interesting to show you over here. We'll just keep moving around these nyala. Amazingly, they just are not reacting to us at all. And I'm sure it's because of the proximity to the camp. But, Bryan, if you try and get an angle on this unbelievable lattice work of a tropical tent web spider. And I think that the dawn light caught in these strands is always very beautiful. And if I can actually see, can I see the spider? I can't actually see the spider. there's quite an interesting thing here. There is an orb web. There's a very cross impala there. There is an orb web as well as this kind of, well, Bryan, you'll recognise this sort of trapeze net underneath here, right? A little bit like a trapeze net. So there's the trapeze net you can see underneath there. Normally the spider will live in the sort of inverted funnel that is in the middle of the web there. And the intricacy of this is unbelievable. Each strand is probably about 1 millimetre apart. A millimetre doesn't have an imperial equivalent as far as I'm aware. Very, very little, small fraction of an inch. And then over here, there is another spider that is living in the same web, but is a different species. And it is a very small orb web spider. So an orb web spider will create this sort of traditional spider's web that you know of, and sort of vertically arranged with the, what do we call them, the roundy bits. But it's vertically arranged. My vocabulary has left me this morning. And the tent web spider is completely inverted like that, and he has a horizontal arrangement. So that's not the same spider that's living there. And I don't actually see the tropical tent web spider here. They are very small, obviously, otherwise they wouldn't be able to create such an amazing intricacy of strands. Then the last thing I want to show you here is that while it's all very well having a net, and not much is just going to fall into it spontaneously, so they've got this whole arrangement here of knockdown threads. And the knockdown threads are precisely as they say. When an insect flies into them, they're not particularly sticky. It just creates, they get their wings tied up, they fall down, they fall into the sticky part, which is the trapeze nest or net at the bottom there. Amazing stuff, Bryan, amazing. Right, the nyalas have moved off. And so I think that we will also make our way off. Now, Lucy, you very kindly were concerned about my stick and the fact that I'd lost it the other day. As with most of the things that I lose, Lucy, I found it in my room. This is embarrassing, of course. Let us head off across the clearings here. We'll head down to the south of the reserve to start with, and then we'll see whether we're going to turn west or east. We may just see if we don't find 1 or 2 tracks of the Queen, and see if she has come back towards these parts. It is a perfect morning, and we'll get into a position where we can watch the sun come up. There's some impala, Bryan, just running across the plains. I'm sure those are the ones that were shouting at us. Or shouting at each other, the males making that totally incongruous roaring sound. Alrighty, we're going to continue to the south. Sam is somewhere knocking about the place. Let's head across to him and see if they've found anything interesting.
So we are back here in the drainage line. Very chilly down here, I'll tell you that. And we are looking to see if we can find anything down here. We saw some line tracks, but they seem fairly old. So what we decided to do is just to drive next to the drainage line, just for the next while, to see if we can locate on any sound cause or alarm cause of any animals that might be quite scared of a predator around here. And just kind of pick up on any signs. So we've seen some tracks, now it's time to hear some different sounds out here in the bush. And I've just been told that you just saw a nyala bull, a dominance display. It's the same, must have been the same nyala we saw this morning. That's very cool. So now James is on foot with that in nyala. It's very cool how they do that, how they stand up their hair on the back of or on their backs. It's always very, very interesting behavior that you really get with in nyalas. Very, very incredible, endemic to this area. And, well, they're also up in Phinda, but you don't get Ooh, whoa, we just got some good news. I don't know what it might be. Let's go and have a look to see what Jamie's got.
There we go. We knew we'd heard them from somewhere. Jeandre said Gallagher shortcut, I said Sandy Patch Road, and we found them in the middle. Or at least we found this one male on Aubrey's Road. Very, very close to where we had that sighting of Tingana and also Tsakani in this particular area. Oh, it's a nice way to start the morning, and hopefully he continues to vocalize. I can only see one male at the moment. I don't see any others, but he could well lead us across to the rest of them. Looks like a Birmingham boy from what little I can see of him, but let's shuffle a little bit closer and have a look. Does he communicate on the Game Drive channel? Morning, Mike. I've got one Madorangala lying up on Aubrey's Road, about 300 meters or 200 meters north of the access junction.
I'm going to be making my way north up to the Catlands and the full signal here, that's up. Thank you.
Copy that, Mike. I wonder what he thinks of those rutting impala, and if he's ever tempted to just show them what a real male lion roar sounds like in comparison. So, Ravi, you were wondering if the Tsalalas were calling last night, and if so, why would they do so, since clearly they don't really want to draw attention to themselves. They are currently around Arathusa Dam, so close to the territory of the Birmingham boys. And you are absolutely right. This is from what I can see, or from what I would have thought. Let's not disturb him from his restful slumber. Well, I think that's about as close as we can get. So, Ravi, I don't know if they were calling last night. I think the Birmingham boys were particularly vocal. I would have suspected that they wouldn't want to draw attention to themselves. But if they did, maybe they felt confident that the Birmingham boys were far enough away. Maybe they felt it's necessary just to let the other lion prides in that area know that they were around. And as a result, that could be one of the reasons why this Birmingham boy, if indeed it is a Birmingham boy, has come all the way across in this direction. The impala, undeterred by the lion in their midst, busy rutting and grunting away. He looks quite old, to be honest. I just want to double-check this. I sort of automatically assumed Birmingham boy just because of where we are, but that isn't always the case, and you've got to be careful about such assumptions. Difficult to tell without looking at his teeth, just how old he is. We've spoken a lot about not the fallacy exactly, but the inaccuracy of using a lion's nose, the darkness of a lion's nose, to determine their age. But as a general rule, it doesn't always apply, as a general guideline, very often lions' noses go darker as they get older. Doesn't always happen. Sometimes you get old lionesses with very pink noses, and sometimes you get young lions with very dark noses. So it's not a strict, hard and fast rule, but it is a sort of a general principle. The best way to age a lion, of course, is to look at his teeth, but unless Jeandre is going to volunteer to go and do a dental inspection. Sure. Oh, okay, Jeandre is up for it. Well, I certainly think that we'd probably increase, might go viral with that. No, I don't think I'll be sending Jeandre across to have a look at his teeth. No. Sorry, Jeandre, not today. Not today. Besides, I can't operate that camera, then who would film it? We'd have a slight problem.
Put on a selfie stick.
Right, a selfie stick, all right. Jeandre clearly has lost his mind this morning and is determined to go and inspect the teeth of that lion. I'm not sure who this is. I'm not sure which particular male it is. It's probably a Birmingham boy. But if any of you happen to know, and I'm sorry, I cannot keep this earpiece in my ear this morning. Doesn't want to stay. Stay. I have to tape it in. And Lucy from South Bend, Indiana, you were wondering if this could be the male that was with amber eyes. When was that? That was about a week, more than a week ago now. And he then moved off Djuma and towards Torchwood and onto First Rock. It could be. I never saw the male that was with amber eyes. I was not with James when he had that sighting. We know that they were together 2 days ago, but I think that what's happened, because Jeandre said that he heard contact calls, so not just the broad, deep roars of lions announcing their presence to the big wide world, but also the slightly softer contact calls. So what I think is that, yes, the Birmingham boys have since split from Amber Eyes. There were, last I heard, 3 of them with her on Torchwood, so the property to the east of us, about 2.5 miles away from where we are now. So they'd obviously split up now. Amber Eyes looking to return to the Nkuhumas, and the Birmingham boys looking to potentially reunite as a coalition. Now, we've got some interesting aspects of the lion dynamics playing out at the moment. We've got the Tsalalas. And we'll chat a little bit more about the lion dynamics, because it could be quite a long discussion, and I want to hear what you guys all think, and if we have any further information. In the meantime, we shall await the rising sun, hopefully to heat us up a little bit, and we're going to go and have a look at the sunrise from James's on-foot perspective.
I'm not sure that you'll ever get a better picture than that, everyone. The gentle lemon-coloured sun glowing through a sunken mist in the great valley of the Umlulwati. And while that lion, you see, even the lion has decided that such a view cannot be enjoyed while walking about. He must be lying down and enjoying it. That picture that you're seeing there is completely unedited. I mean, there's no kind of effect we're putting on it. So what you're seeing there is what we're standing looking at now. It truly is unbelievable, watching the golden spread as that mist turns from white into that incredible kind of yellow-orange gold. I know that I'm kind of burning the back of my retina, but I'm unable to take my eyes away from it. That really is quite something. Hey? Gee whiz. That might be one of the best I've seen. Certainly the most unusual. Alrighty, let's go back to the lion. We're going to move down towards the south, like I said, and see what we can find there.
I'm sorry. You might have just missed that. But he just sort of stretched. And you know how when you roll over in your bed when you're waking up in the morning and you stretch, you kind of go... He just did it. Sorry, boy. He just made the exact same sound as he stretched. He kind of tucked his paws in and went as he hugged himself. I've never heard a male lion do that before, but it was highly, highly entertaining. I hope he does it again for us. It was definitely not quite befitting of the dignity of the supposed king of the jungle or king of the beasts. Those huge feet. He's looking very peaceful. So yes, lion dynamics is what we were going to chat about after you had a look at James's stunning sunset. The Salala Pride have pushed up into Arathusa. They do occasionally come onto Arathusa anyway, so it might just be that that's why they just were wandering about. Home ranges of a lion or territory of a lion is not a set-in-stone thing. It's got flexible boundaries, and perhaps they just came up because they felt like it. However, the Mangeni pride, or the subadults of the Mangeni pride, or the Salala breakaway pride, are also out of their usual home range of Londolozi, and they've come all the way up and are now sitting at the dam at Simbambili, the property to the northwest of us. And the Matimbas even made a very brief journey into Simbambili, the Matimba males that were kicked out by the Birmingham boys almost a year ago. They decided to pop up north for a visit, and they went back again. And one has to wonder about what has caused these shifts in lion dynamics and what it's going to mean for the future. Personally, I actually don't think there's going to be much in the way of drama or fireworks. I think the Salalas might hang around Arathusa for a bit and then move back further south and disappear from our view for a while. The Elephant Plains Arathusa area has been almost a black hole in terms of prides, not male coalition territories, but in terms of prides, we've hardly seen the Nkuhumas heading across there. They've spent brief periods of time on Arathusa, but over the last few months, they've maybe pushed only a little bit into that area. Other than that, they've spent most of their time around Djuma and Torchwood and Buffelshoek, and mostly Djuma and Torchwood. The Styx females are further to the south, so they're south of Gowrie Main, around Chitwa and Little Gowrie, and they've got their cubs there, so they're not going to be going too far. And maybe that's why the Salala pride has moved up into this area. It's just because there's space. There's a vacuum in terms of pride territories, and they've taken an opportunity to come and do that. And Taxon's just coming to join. Of course, you're more than welcome. He's just basically showing courtesy by asking if he can come and join us. And I'm going to have to reposition so that he can squeeze past. Oh, no, maybe not. Morning, Fan, how are you? Thanks. Guys. Can you squeeze past there, Tax?
No, if it's not, then you'll just hear that you will push me.
You just push me out the way. Sorry, bear with me 1 second because my earpiece has now completely given up. Jeandre is having a good chuckle. It's in two pieces. Just hold on 1 second while I try and fix that. Oh, you're perfect. Oh, too many things going on at once. Multitasking here. Okay, I can hear again. You seem to be fine. Since our lion doesn't seem to be up to terribly much, let's head over to James, who has a flying insect for you.
This is a little wasp, everyone. Well, he's not that little, he's about an inch long, just under. And he has been flying around these clearings for some time, and I've wanted to get a good look at him. But of course, because he is a wasp, he will sting, or she will sting you. And this one is so cold that she can't move. She was just starting to sort of ooze about the place. I put it on my hand and then realized that I was probably going to get stung. So I then put her on my sleeve while she wakes up. There you can see a bit of movement in her feelers. And as the sun warms her up, she'll start to move around. Now she's been eating a sedge that has flowered around the clearings and also the Waltheria plants. I'm not sure which parts specifically, but that's what she's been going for. And just the incredible iridescence. I mean, she's got exactly the same colours as a Birchall starling. Right, well, I'm going to put her down before she lumas me. Let's go back to Jamie and the now mobile Birmingham lion.
We dragged you away from James because I think he's going to call. Is that it, boy? Here we go. Come on. Well, That was dramatic. Bud in North Carolina has suggested maybe if I you... Oh, never mind. Come on, boy. Here we go. Now we're going to get a roar. Oh, somebody's got a limp. Let's just wait and see if he calls. Oh, somebody's got a very sore foot. Doing some territorial marking. And Stacy. I'm just going to be quiet for the moment, just so that we get the full effects of the noises he's making. Hello, boy. Peekaboo. Are you looking for the rest of your buddies? Stacy, you were saying the Matimba males have been after the Mangeni pride. Could this not be the ginger Matimba male? And no, he's not big enough. Now that he's standing up, now that we've got a full view of that mane, he is definitely much younger. And not the same Birmingham boy I saw with the limp months ago. Looking very sorry for himself. And not really fully calling. We also had that moment when he yawned. Not, unfortunately, in response to my own yawn, but he did yawn. And we got a chance to see his teeth, so it is a young male, it's not a Matimba male. I'm just going to let Taxon go in front of me, so that he can, his guest can have a look, and then we will move around in front as well. If he does go into this block, it's going to be really very tricky for us to stay. Well, my earpiece is still in one piece. It's going to be really very tricky for us to stay with him. It's a horrendously dense block. But we'll do our utmost, and he's obviously looking for the rest of his coalition, so hopefully he leads us to them. Now, Jamel, you're wondering, as we go and follow him as he searches for the rest of his coalition, what makes the most successful lion coalition, and what or which lions do I think are the most successful? And the answer is the biggest advantage that a male coalition could have is the advantage of numbers. So the more lions in a coalition, the better. That being said, as with what happened with the Mapochos, a large male coalition. Oh, in we go. Maybe the lions that I heard were around Buffelshoek. So what happened with the Mapochos was that they had a territory of around or close to, I think in the end, 15,000 odd hectares, if not larger. And the end result of that was that they split. The coalition of 6 males ended up splitting. And in the end, that was probably that and age is what led to their downfall, because the Majingilanis were able to pick them off one by one in twos. Or partially. I'm oversimplifying what happened there, but you sort of get the idea. And there's also attitude. There is a certain degree of personality to these wonderful big cats. Scrapper, or Tokolosh, or Tsotsi, depending on who you asked what his name was, the one Birmingham boy that recently died around Buffelshoek. He had a particular... Oh, come on, boy. Give us a good call. He had a particularly interesting attitude. He was actually quite aggressive almost in terms of his response. As to which coalition I think is the best, I couldn't possibly say. I don't know how you define most successful, because you could have a very large territory and reproduce with a lot of females, but then at the same time, that's not going to be very successful if they can't protect and maintain those offspring and look after them and stop other males from causing them injury. So I don't necessarily see it in terms of success versus failure of coalitions. It's not really a competition. I'm just trying to see if I can't. I think Taxon's going round. Oopsie. Come on, Wendy. Ah, there we go. That's where he's going. Thanks, Tax. That makes more sense. I thought that I heard more than one lion. So there's a second Birmingham boy just up ahead of us. Bethany, you're wondering if the lions had perhaps realized that with Scrapper dead, there was... Oh, sorry, hold on 1 second. Standing by, Greg. Oh, there he is.
Champion, I'd like to respond to that guy on Aubrey's Road, if possible.
Copy that, Greg. You're welcome to take a standby after Mike, depending on how far he is. It's very, very thick block. I'll keep you updated.
Okay, I'm making my way. I've just left the airstrip, making my way down the boundary.
Off he goes. Copy that. You can make your way in.
Great, Mike. You can make your way in, all right?
Let's try and
Copy, thanks,
keep
Mike.
up with them. They're going to go meet up somewhere close to that termite mound where we were before. Bethany, I'm going to get back to you on the answer to your question that you asked. But for now, I'm just going to concentrate on getting us into a good position to follow these lines. While I do, let's go back over to Sam.
So you've just been with some male lion. You've just been, I think it's just one or two. I heard over the radio that there potentially might be another lion in that area. That's really, really exciting. We are just, let me just turn this radio down. We are at the moment at Buffelshoek Dam. So you've just reached us as we've got you. It's pretty chilly here again, and the sun is just poking its nose through the trees there. Some beautiful soft light coming on to Buffelshoek, and we're going to gently come in here to see, are there any tracks? Is there anything lurking in the bushes just before we get to the watering hole? Because who knows what might be up there. Here we go. So we're coming over the thicket now, and we are now at Buffelshoek. At the moment I can't see anything. Let's see if there's any tracks of the lion, the female lionesses. Because they really do like this area. So here's the watering hole. I think it's a bit too cold, a little bit too early for any animals to be here at the moment. But that is one big watering hole, and let's go see what James is doing with a smaller one.
It's very cold down here. We're in the drainage line, a drainage line that feeds the Umlulwati. Apparently my hat is not of an acceptable standard. I just didn't want you to have to look underneath my peak cap. Anyway, we're sitting here, let me start again. We're sitting here in a drainage line that is feeding the Umlulwati, a small tributary, but there's water flowing here, and it has been excavated by the elephants. They've dug this, it's probably about 3.5 feet deep, just over a metre, and you can see there is water there, and that water will be flowing, and I'm certainly not going to drink any of it. Apparently it smells pretty rank, but it's much cleaner, for example, than the water that's in the Jeandre Dam pan, which of course is filled with buffalo dung and urine and the detritus of various sort of terrapins and various other things. So this is where the elephants will choose to come and drink as the dry season progresses. Right, I think the lions are moving again. Let's head across to them.
Mornings don't get much better than watching a male lion in this glorious golden morning light. The two of them have settled down in a sunny patch to warm themselves up and have a jolly good clean. Now, Bethany, sorry, I was trying to concentrate on following those lions and making sure we knew where they went, and I didn't fully get to your question, which was, would they be looking for another member of their coalition, or another member of the coalition now that they've lost one of them? And the answer is no, probably not. It's not unheard of for a male lion coalition to accept a member after the coalition is formed, but it is very unusual. And the chances are that the Birmingham Boy Coalition will forever after now be 4, unless something else happens to one of the other males. What I do think might, or I've put it forward as conjecture more than anything else, is the possibility that with down to 4, they are quite severely weakened as a coalition, and that might have been one of the reasons why the Matimbas felt brave enough to not quite go into the heart of their territory, but at least to take a little sojourn into being close to that area. I like this one lion. He's got a mane all the way down the front of his body, but hardly anything around the back. He looks very scraggly. There you go, the usual affection between coalition members, and plus, of course, the added advantage of passing on scents. Putting one lion's scent onto the other. Kathy in Tennessee, you were wondering about how many males there are in the coalition. The answer is 4 now within the Birmingham Boys. He just looks so reluctant. I love the mohawk, by the way. It's not the most dignified pose. Kathy, there's 4 in the Birmingham Boy Coalition. There are 2 males in the Sulati Male Coalition that are further to the north. Oh, he looks like he's really enjoying that scratch. And there are 2 Matimba males, but further to the south around Londolozi. But the Birmingham Boys, the coalition of 4, it used to be 5, it is now 4, are the dominant males in this area for now. You can sort of see what I mean by a large coalition having to split off into different groups. So when the larger a coalition's territory, the further they have to go to patrol, and the more they have to split up in order to do so successfully and to maintain the size of that territory. And a lion on his own or in a pair is a lot more vulnerable than they would be in a group of 4. But to maintain their territory, it would be simply impossible for them to stay together all the time. Well, the Birmingham Boys looking a little bit the worse for the wear, actually. Okay, boys, where are you leading us now? Let's see if we can't stay with them. It does get very thick in this block. Hopefully we can find a nice game path to follow. Or maybe Taxon will make one for us. Let's try go this way. I suspect they're going to come out close to the road. I might leave them for now, disappearing into this block, because you can see how thick it is up ahead of us. And go around across to the road and see if we can't meet up with them from there. I don't know. Sorry, I have to make space. I have to wait here for the moment because there's only space for one of us to go ahead. I don't know how much thicker it's going to get, but I think it's going to be very difficult for us to keep up with them through this block. Uh-oh. Let's not block Taxon in. Watch out, Jeandre. The leopard's asked an interesting question while we sit here, because I cannot follow through here. I'll have to wait for my turn to go around. Leopold, you're wondering if the lions get uncomfortably cold at night. And I guess they do. They certainly will feel cold, just like all of the animals out here, but at least they've got each other to cuddle together for warmth. A leopard, on the other hand, would have to find a nice cozy spot all to themselves and try and be warm there. No colder than the other animals, but at least there's some shared body warmth generally. I'm going to try and get back out onto the road and follow up on these lions. While I do, let's head back over to Sam.
Uh-oh. So, exciting morning with the lions. Myself and Dave at the moment are in an open area. We thought we heard something in the thickets here, so we're just going to drive pretty slowly and see if we can see anything that might be lying up in the tall grass here. Have a look at that nice light on these trees though. It looks very cool. That morning light. So 2 male lions this morning. Jeepers, so all sorts is happening. We're going to see if we can find you something around these areas. Doesn't seem to be anything up here from what we heard. But we're going to go and make our way towards Cheetah Plains to see if we can find some cheetah this morning. It is a cold morning, and as we know, the cheetah are diurnal animals. So what we thought we would do is just have a look in our property to see if there's something that might be lurking around, whether it be leopard tracks or female lion tracks, because we know that the pregnant female is in the area somewhere. And there's no point really going to go look for her. We just thought maybe if we drive in that area and she's lying up on the road or close to the road somewhere, it would be nice to view her. So it was always worth the chance to see if we can see her, and it doesn't seem that she's here anywhere. But we can smell the smell of lion dung. It was quite prominent. And every now and then an alarm call coming from the deep thicket down there. So, interesting morning for lions this morning. We've seen some, we've smelled some. Maybe we'll see some as we drive around this corner. Susan would like to know if a lion was hungry and saw a nice juicy looking Sam and Dave in the car, would the lion come and try and eat us? No, Susan. No. I highly... more 9 out of 10, no, just it wouldn't happen. I mean, I've heard of it happening once before. I think it happened in the Kruger National Park. But it's, you know, lions are very scared of humans. And also when we're in the vehicle, they don't see us as humans. As you can see, we are sitting with those male lions at the moment. And, you know, they almost don't see us as a threat when we're in the car. So the car acts as like a barrier and gives us the opportunity to view lions. But if we were on foot trying to view those lions, it would be a much different story. Those lions would run away from us. So, it's a good question. But at this stage, no lions, even if it was super hungry, wouldn't see us as food in the car. But to be honest, I don't know what they're thinking while they're lying down looking at us. I don't know if we look that juicy. What do you think, Dave?
Not bad.
So let's go up the fire break to see if there's any tracks of any female lionesses walking in this area. And it's not common for female lionesses to stay in one area. They like to move. It's just that we've seen lionesses around Buffalo for quite some time now, at least a week and a half. So it's always worth just tracking and seeing what one can find in the early mornings. Have a look at this grass in the morning light. It actually looks really cool. I love the look of light as it is being caught by grass. It just looks incredible. So those are the top grasses which the zebra would like to graze. So zebra would come into these areas, much like other animals, rhinos and elephants and all that will eat. And the big bulk grazers will eat the grass that we see and we've just shown you here. And the wildebeest like the much smaller grass, so they will come behind those grazers. So let's go back to Jamie to have a last look at those lions.
Our last view of these lions as they cross the road. We've got to make space for vehicles coming in to join us at the site, and we've managed to have one last view of them. Look at that mangy patch on his shoulder. Shame I can just hear poor Taxon trying to get out of this block. So we're going to stay with them for now, actually, until the other two vehicles arrive, at which point we will pass the sighting across to them. Beautiful in this morning light. They're on a mission. Okay, let's think about this. Give me 1 second. I just need to think about how to follow them. I know that there is a route into this block. All right, let's pop in here and try and catch up with them this way. Thanks, Tex. Okay, my turn to follow. Taxon kept track of them for me. Now it's my turn to keep track of them for him. In theory. There they go. Oof. We're struggling a little bit with Wendy's power situation at the moment. No, that's not going to work. Yeah. I'm sure you don't want to be with us while we crash through here, so I'm going to send you back over to James.
Hello everybody, I'm standing behind a silver cluster leaf bushel, but I am standing with what is known as the sword-toothed love grass. Isn't it lovely, Bryan?
It is beautiful.
So beautiful. Yes. and has the wonderful name Eragrostis superba. It is superb, isn't it, Bryan?
Very superb.
Very superb. Now, quite apart from the silliness involved in this, these seeds are obviously an extremely valuable source of food for many things out here, especially rodents and birds like, what birds was I seeing eating them the other day? Some of the finch-like birds. So a manakin or a waxbill or I'm just trying to think exactly. Oh yes, I saw a cinnamon-breasted bunting, for example. What they would do, not so much with this one, although I'm sure they do that with this one, if you look at this grass here, which looks like a sort of small wheat, what they do is they fly up, they grab the grass, and they pull it down onto the ground, and then they put their foot over the top of it and use their beaks to pull the seeds off, and then they let it go and it flicks back up and ends up as it does there. Now, Eragrostis is one of the very few genus of grasses that has produced an indigenous kind of African grain. Now, we all know that wheat and maize and barley are all grasses in the same way that these are, but that they have much larger seeds than just about all the African grasses. And for this reason, they were domesticated. Now, in Africa, very few grasses were domesticated. One of them was sorghum, and the other was something called Eragrostis teff, which is a species of Eragrostis like this, which grows up in the Ethiopian highlands. And teff, which is basically exactly like wheat, it's a sort of standard issue refined grain carbohydrate, has now become all the rage amongst the sort of organic eating fashion eaters of the Western world. When in actual fact, it's a fairly bland tasting grain from the highlands of Ethiopia that people only ate there because there was really not much else to eat. And that's from the same genus as this, Eragrostis. Isn't that nice? It's not very nice, right? All right, on we go. We're in the block here, and excuse me 1 second. We're going to walk through here, and I'm just going to go and look around. Well, we're kind of in the general vicinity where Karula's been spending quite a lot of time. We'll just see what we can find there. I've got no idea where she is or what she's doing, but maybe we'll be lucky. In the meantime, Samuel has got a very large animal to show you.
So on our way to Cheetah Plains this morning, we came across some elephants that are walking towards our property. At the moment they're on Torchwood, and I just caught sight of a tusk through the trees in the distance there, and now I've already seen about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elephants that are here, and they'll all be coming into this area very soon. Here's one to the left here in the sunlight there, so it's quite difficult to view. But we've got quite a number of them still coming through. There's a young Ellie there. So if we're lucky, we'll have all these elephants come past our vehicle. I'm just going to reverse so that we don't have the sun completely coming in that angle of our front. Just before these elephants cross over, I think we might be in for a very, very special treat of elephants walking right past our vehicle. I'm just going to be patient and give it time. So, that's good. So now we're actually in a little bit of shade now as well, so that'll help shade from that sun, so we can actually view the elephants. So it looks like he's grazing there on some round leaf teaks, some bush willows, and the trees and the grasses are looking quite a little bit greener from those rains we had about 2 days ago. We've seen quite a few birds as well. When we were on Cheetah Plains yesterday, I saw a number of different birds that were feeding on insects. So the insects would have come out from the rains, and all the different mammals such as bush babies and birds have been coming out to collect some of the insects that have come from the rain. So that's very, very cool whenever it rains. And here, looks like this elephant is playing with some dust. That looks awesome in that morning light with the dust just floating around. It looks like a young female from this position. That looks very cool. Oh, wow. See how she blew it? What? Yes, in that morning light, that is incredible. Isn't that spectacular? So they will be dust bathing themselves, and that helps them with cooling down when it gets a bit hotter a little bit later, and also helps them with the different parasites that like to jump on board with the ellies. And I also think they do it because ooh, look at that. So it is a female. You can see that by that quite rigid front of her head there. See, I'll explain the difference between a female and a male when we have a look at Elvis the Ellie a bit later. It can help us with learning a little bit more about females and males. Have a look, she's interested in who we are and what we are. The youngsters are coming behind her. The youngster just behind her, two young ones. So she just was interested to see who we are as the two youngsters came back. Look how she's flaring her ears out like that. Incredible sighting these elephants this morning. Sorry about that view of the back of our vehicle. Pleasure to spend some time with some young elephants in the morning. On our way to cheetah plains. They really are such graceful animals, the elephants. Always just calm me down whenever I'm on drive. Cool the tempo down. So wherever you are in the world, and you're watching these elephants walking around, I hope they're bringing you that same sense of calm. It's almost not a word for elephants, the kind of the emotion that they can bring. Very, very peaceful animals. There's another elephant just through the thicket that's moving quite quickly. Seems that it could be another young female. She's also come and had a look at us. There's even more coming. This is quite a big herd of breeding. Look what she's doing. She's shaking her ears. Anna Marie is asking, do elephants sneeze? You know, Anna Marie, I've watched them more, especially because they kick up all the dust, as you mentioned. Yes, I've seen an elephant sneeze before. It's quite funny. Sneeze or just trumpeted really loud. Oh, look at that. That's awesome. What are you doing? Incredible interaction between two young elephants. This one doesn't even have tusks yet. I love how playful the young elephants can be with one another. She's got her trunk right over her body. So the mother's just in the background there with the two youngsters here. We were sitting earlier looking at the grasses, looking at that beautiful light in the grasses, and now you can see that again. You can see them now grazing on those grasses, picking them up. Eating the little plants that are on the ground as well. What's also really interesting is that sometimes you'll find elephants will eat ground, some of the ground, like I find little bits of ground, and that's called geophragia. And they're collecting and eating some of the minerals that they find in the ground. If they're lacking in some mineral, they'll eat some of the ground, which is truly interesting. You also get coprophagia, which is some animals that eat, ooh, look at that, reaching up for some plants in the distance there. Coprophagia is when you find some animals eat the dung of other animals to collect minerals. So there's truly everything that can be eaten out here in the bush. Now I can really see the size of those tusks and that skin and the size of the ears. I love the skin of elephants. There's a great shot of the two youngsters together. And as we sit here in silence for a bit, you could pick up on the different sounds of these elephants eating, browsing. Two youngsters seem to be playing with each other over here. Oh, this interaction between these two youngsters is awesome. There's a little bit of a fight going on just in the distance there with two elephants. Look at that. Isn't that awesome to see that through the thicket there? And they're not small. They're... Listen to that. Look at the two youngsters coming out here now. There seems to be a little bit of unrest. The large one here seems to be another female. She's coming to have a look at us. Smelling us. Look at that little bump on top of the head of the one on the right there. What is that on top of its head? Can you see that there? No, the one to the left. It's gone now. There was some... This one, yeah, it's just behind that tree there. There was something on top of its head. I don't know if anyone else saw that. It looked like a little rock or something on top of one of the elephant's heads. Now look at the interaction here again between the two youngsters. Beautiful sounds of the bush. Another ellie there. So the breeding herd seems to be getting larger and larger, as we can still hear elephants coming in from all different directions. There's two that are now coming in behind that one there. This is such a magnificent sighting of elephants. Oh, look at this small one there. That's very sweet. William is curious to know if I've ever had an elephant come up to the vehicle and touch my vehicle. Yes, William, I've had that quite a few times. Probably about 3 or 4. And they just touched it and left straight away. I just felt it very quickly with their trunk. But you can always kind of see what kind of mood they're in. If they're in a curious mood and they just want to see what you might be, or if they're in an angry mood, and that's when you don't want them to come anywhere close to your vehicle. It's all about... While we sit for a bit longer with these elephants, let's go and see a ground hornbill with Jamie.
Here's a wonderful surprise while we've been playing hide and seek, where poor Taxon is trying to guide all of us into a sighting and none of us can find him. We've been surprised by a sighting of 3 ground hornbills. How wonderful. The 2 of them there foraging together. Looks like a male in front and a female behind, grabbing at insects and whatever else they can find. I'm just going to take this opportunity for one moment to just be quite quiet and see if I can hear Taxon coming through the bushes. Well, these ground hornbill are going to disappear relatively quickly. It's lovely to see them on these open clearings once again. It's been a while since I last saw a ground hornbill on Jeandre. We've seen them relatively regularly on cheetah plains.
Really got in here. It packs too well. I think this road bent out to the east a little bit.
Poor Mike is trying to find Taxon. I'm also trying to find Taxon.
I didn't get audio there now either.
I'm just listening really, really carefully to hear if I can help these guys out, because they are trying to find him. So ground hornbill, that huge bird, I know it's difficult for you to see exactly how big that sort of bird is, but it's about just a little bit larger than a turkey in terms of size, just to give you a sense of scale, and critically endangered. So you're looking at 3 of only 4,000, no, sorry, not 4,000, that's too high. You're looking at 3 of about 1,500 left in the entire world of those birds. So something that we're always exceptionally excited to see. I'm just going to go around the corner here. I'm sure Taxon's going to pop out. He said the males seem to be looking for something quite keenly. And we'll see if we can't figure out what that is. Shame poor Taxon was just keeping track of them so that we could guide the other vehicles in before we both left.
But there's a nyala just more to the south of me.
So while we try and find Taxon, I'm going to send you back across to Sam and his elephants.
Quite clear across there.
So we are still with this huge breeding herd of elephants, and we just saw 2 elephants in the background there that were fighting. It's incredible to see that. maybe we'll see them get stroppy with each other again. So there was a little bit of animosity between those two in the distance there. The other one doesn't seem interested at all. Ooh. Have a look at that. There's two elephants that are fighting down there. Just in the distance there we can see a bit of dust. Let's see if I can drive in that direction to see what's going on between these two elephants. How awesome was that? You just saw the one elephant come in and start. Oh, we've still got all these elephants to the left of us, so I don't want to scare the youngster that's on our left, just so that we can go watch an elephant fight. Let's just give it some time. Maybe they'll come back on the road. Let's see. There they go. Sorry, I just saw them running into the thicket there. There's two running there. So we're not sure where they're going now. It's into the sun where they are. So these elephants have all of a sudden started to run over here. This is really interesting. It could have been the interaction between two different breeding herds. But you couldn't see the ones that ran down here. So what I'm going to do is just going to drive down here to see if maybe they can come out of the bush again. Wow, it was incredible in the distance. I just saw one of these elephants sprinting after the other. You can still see a little bit of the dust that's here. The sun is directly ahead of us as we look to find these elephants, so it's not going to be easy. What I'll do is I'll go down to that termite mound and then do a loop to see if they run back onto the road somewhere here, because they are going to be following that breeding herd, so they will be back at some point. Just trying to locate on them. I think I see them. So some of you would have been commenting on the tracker collar that they saw on the female elephants. I didn't actually see that. Did you see it, Dave? I think I didn't quite see that tracking collar. I'm not sure if it was one of the elephants that has already gone through the bushes. We could have had another good look at it. Those elephants were here, so their tracks are running into there. We're going to turn around here and see if maybe they've come back, will be coming back the other way. Sandy's interested into why they are fighting and do they ever injure each other. Sandy, they do injure each other sometimes in these fights, you know, as they are very, very big animals. And as you saw, they were bumping heads quite strongly there, but they are very resilient to those fights, and sometimes it can be a playful fight that they're having with one another between two young males, but it could also be two breeding herds that have interacted with each other, some of the females getting a little bit protective of their family groups, so it could also be that. And that was fascinating behavior that we just saw there between those two elephants. It's not often that you see two ellies having a rumble with each other. So we're just going to drive slowly and see if we can see them. So while we slowly drive across here to see if we can find those elephants that are fighting again, let's go and see how James is doing.
We are finding various bits and pieces out here. Sounds like great excitement with the elephants. This, of course, was not an elephant. It was, at one stage, a proud member of the family Bovidae, a large buffalo bull that was killed by lions, obviously not too far from here. what I shall do, in fact, let's stand up into the sun there, Bryan. Let me turn it around for you so that you might see it in all its glory. And all of these bits and pieces on the end of this vertebra have names, which I don't know, but it is astonishing how many complicated pieces there are just on this one vertebra. And why it should have been like that is all down to the incredibly random nature in which nature has developed. So my stick has gone through the spot where the cerebrospinal fluid would go, and the vertebra, of course, are joined. You can see this one here. That would have been joined to its opposite number in much the same way that, well, with the back end like that one is. So this buffalo, I don't know, I don't remember a kill being around here, do you? Bryan, do you remember a murder around here? Anyway, buffalo died around here. I'd say this is a good, it's not that old, it's probably about 5 or 6 months old, I'd say. And I think it was a fully grown buffalo bull and must have been killed by a fairly substantial group of lions. We're not too far from Treehouse Dam, so I don't know who killed it or when that happened. But if you ever touch something like this in the bush, of course, one of the most important things to do, Bryan, is
Wash your hands.
yes, or disinfect yourself. Now, we came across this over here, and you can see these very nondescript kind of plants here, and I've never known what they were, but I have always realized that they smell of camphor, and if you squash them up at the roots, they've got a very sort of menthol camphor smell, and it's really nice. So apparently it is a bit of a disinfectant, so you can kind of rub that on your hands if you've been playing around with the bones, dead bones. I wouldn't then go and lick my hands, but maybe it would help a little bit. But Steph has just told me that they were used, or they still are used, by bushmen who, and I don't know if you know what a bushman is. A bushman is a kind of Stone Age person that lives up in the Kalahari. There are still people living as they did thousands of years ago, and they will take a plant like this to plug the ostrich eggs in which they transport water. Very nice. Well done, Bryan. And they'd make, it's a sedge, so it makes a little ball of flour when there's enough water. It's much stronger smelling when there is some water. Right, let us go around. Now, we have in the last little while been trying to find, we've been trying to kind of get sight of the mystic Boer, Stefan. And we're putting together a series where we spot him and he doesn't know that we've spotted him. And I can't actually see him. But he's gone down here somewhere. This is our security detail, everybody. No, we will keep an eye out for him though. Now, Judy H., you'd like to see some wild saffron. Yes, we can try and find some. There isn't any in this particular area, but as soon as we find some, I will let you know. And you see how the sun has warmed us up a little bit, how the lovely rays are touching our faces, and it is just one of the best feelings in the world. Careful there, Bryan. Don't fall over anything. Oh, there. We found him. Now what he's doing is he's listening to what sounds like some elephants. So we just heard off towards Treehouse Dam over there. So I think what we'll probably do is just try and decide whether they're distressed or whether it's youngsters that are calling. And if it's just youngsters messing around, then we'll probably head towards them and see if we can't have a look at them. So just speaking of smells, while Steph listens there, this is something that has a very unattractive Afrikaans name. Smell that, Bryan. Take a deep breath, everyone. The Afrikaans name is a paardepus, and that means horse's urine. It smells like horse's urine. The actual fruit is actually quite delicious, and its botanical name is Cissus cornifolia, and its English name is the bushman's grape. It does make a grape that tastes, I think it was you and I, Bryan, who ate this thing and decided it tasted like a Sunday roast, but kind of mixed up with the apple crumble at the end, right? Like a sort of roast chicken mixed with apple crumble. An interesting taste, and that is the horse's urine plant. Right, on we go. Some wild saffron, Judy. We'll do our best. You're, of course, our resident Twitter flower expert. Yet to find a plant that Judy can't identify. Now what we'll do is we'll go up onto this mound here. While we walk up this mountain, Natasha in Ontario, a very nice question from you, of course. It's a very valid one. What is the grossest thing that I've ever picked up in the bush? Well, Natasha, as you may well be aware, Bryan, are you going to be able to get up here? As you may well be aware, we have had to do some research on elephant, at least leopard dung. Picking up leopard dung is by far and away the grossest thing that I've ever had to do in the bush. Thankfully it was done with a rubber glove, though. Now, the elephants were calling off towards where I'm pointing now, to the east. And you can see there's a very distinct depression in the landscape, and that distinct depression in the landscape leads to Treehouse Dam, around which I think those elephants were calling. Alrighty, let's head across to Jamie, find out what she's doing. We'll decide whether we're going to go down that way and catch up with you in a little while.
Copy.
I was actually on my way out of this sighting when Taxon called me back and begged me to come and rescue him. So he's got the lions and they're flat in a block. They're flat in the middle of this awful block. But he can't leave until somebody comes to rescue him. So I just want to have a look at these, Franklin, and listen to the game drive comments. Hello, guys. This morning has been relatively chaotic. We've been trying to text and I've been
more to your left.
trying to help. There we go. Okay, Mike's made his way in, so we can leave this sighting now. Taxon has been rescued. Apparently they're lying up in the middle of the block. There's other vehicles that wanted to make an approach, so we're going to leave that area for now. Oh, dashing across. Little Franklin. I just heard Sam warning us all on the Game Drive channel that there's some very upset elephants around Buffelshoek Dam. I wonder what's got them so on edge. One of the things that I have done while I've been attempting to find and help poor Taxon out of the sighting is I've been checking for lion tracks elsewhere around this block, just in terms of trying to work out where those males are going, or where they were planning on going.
It's really up to you. Maybe try to your right there. If it's more open.
It's definitely, this is a two-vehicle sighting that Taxon is describing, so we wouldn't be able to go and join those lions anyway for now. But towards the end of the sunrise safari, then we'll head back and we'll see if we can't follow up there. Leopold, you've asked what or how would lions react to a larger cat, from what I can understand, coming in and taking a more dominant role. And the answer is... Okay, never mind, sorry, there's a wonderful bird that you can add to your bird list.
Now this is unusual, everyone. This is a Levaillant cuckoo, and the cuckoos, of course, as we know, are all migratory species. This one, however, has not migrated. Now that is not particularly unusual for a bird in its first year. You still see it, Bryan? I've got it there. If you come to where I am, you can see it. It's just up in between the two forks here. I think you're unsighted behind this bush here. You got him. Now the Levaillant cuckoo, as you all know, well I'm sure you all know, cuckoos obviously don't make their own nests, they don't raise their own young, they lay their eggs in the nests of another bird, and that's the last they have to do with them. And the Levaillant cuckoo has a host called the arrow-marked babbler, and that is a sort of flock of communally nesting birds that will raise the Levaillant cuckoo as their own, despite the fact that that bird is well larger than any arrow-marked babbler. And so what we think is that these young birds, they don't migrate in their first year. They stay with their family of babblers until round about now. Then they kind of go independent, and they manage to survive around here despite the lack of insects, because that's what they eat predominantly. They survive for the winter, and then in their second year they will migrate completely instinctually. They don't follow another cuckoo ever. The only relationship they ever have with another cuckoo is to mate with a mate, so nobody ever teaches them where to fly or how to fly there. And next year you'll just decide to go off north, and sometimes they don't have to do that in their second year, they do it in their first year. No one really knows why or what makes a cuckoo like that decide to stay for his first year and then fly off in his second year. Who knows? And sometimes you'll find them living with their flock of babblers even at this time. So when they're very little, I mean, it's not that noticeable that they're a different size. But the babbler is about that big, and the cuckoo is about that big. And you will now find them living together, and they seem to be totally oblivious to the fact that they're just not the same species of bird at all. That's very funny to see if you ever find it. Right, on we go. That was very special. We're on a ridge crest here, where the vegetation is such that it's quite open, and we're surrounded by these very large marula trees, like that one there, and obviously this huge one next to us. And there are always lots of birds around the morning time in these marula trees. I think the insects like to, well, I'm sure there are bits and pieces of insects underneath the loose bark. Let's go and have a look over here. Ooh! Hello, Sibusisu. Here we have a snail, everybody. Now, Sibusisu, you want to know if Agapanthus is indeed truly a good snake repellent. Sibusisu, I have no idea, I'm afraid. I've never, wild garlic, I think. I imagine it might be. A very strong aromatic plant might be a deterrent to some snakes. But remember, there are hundreds of different species of snakes. They all eat different things. So they're not all going to be distracted or put off by the same kinds of deterrents. Let's just have a look at this snail. Now, there's been a great emergence. We had a little bit of rain the other day. I mean, probably less than 1 millimeter. And because of it, we've had a whole emergence of sort of rain species, which will disappear again very soon. We've had dung beetles, and we've had an increase in insects, and we've had tortoises, and now a snail. And if I'm not mistaken, this is a very small giant land snail, so a baby giant land snail, a juvenile one. It'll get to about 3 times the size when it becomes an adult. And it's managed to be very brave around us, and it's put out its horns. And its horns... Now what? Let's just try and be patient. Its horns, of course, the top 2 have got its eyes on them, and the bottom 2 have got other sensory organs. And those simple eyes are able to discern light from dark, and probably form a very rudimentary image. Now let's just wait here and see if he doesn't stick his eyes out. If he doesn't, we'll sing him that Irish song that we sang to the other one. But what will be interesting It would be very nice to see his telescopic eyes coming out. Let's just wait 1 second. There we go. There, look. See the eyes coming out? Telescopic, they kind of unfold, unfurl. Look at that. So he's very nervous. Of course, all he can see is this great big lens looking back at him. You won't know what it is, and then you can see the two bottom eyes coming out. They're not eyes, those horns. Those will help him to sense whatever it is that he wants to eat. And look how slowly the wave-like muscle of his foot moves and enables him to move across the ground here. He'll be looking for all sorts of dead plant material to eat. And moving very slowly because it's still quite chilly. And a snail, of course, is ectothermic, so it gets very cold and then it becomes unable to move. I think this is just fantastic. Isn't that amazing? Look how slow he is. Spiders just come up underneath him, scuttling about at 100 miles an hour. Just in this little square meter of land where we're sitting with this snail, you'll find spiders, you'll find ants, and possibly even the odd, I don't know, centipede and millipede underneath the leaf litter and underneath the twigs and stones. It is amazing. The amount of life in this area is quite something. And Bryan, let's just wait there actually. Alright, let's head across from this snail to something with horns equally as impressive.
Some really interesting things happening with this kudu group. Now, yesterday when we were on one of the school drives, we stopped at a herd of kudu and we noticed that there was one large male that was following a female quite closely. She was obviously going into estrus. Now, Jeandre and I have just driven down the road and these two male kudu exploded, barking furiously out of the bushes and then sprinted away. And there they come, Jeandre, in front of us. And I think instead of alarm calls, it was actually one male chasing away another, because I think that one of the females is coming into estrus. Tried desperately to find them, so I'm not sure exactly how the situation played out. Obviously we have our victor standing at the back with his lady, but they came barreling out of the bushes so fast I actually thought he was going to jump right over the car before he changed direction at the last moment. And one little baby caught up in the middle of all of this. Isn't that beautiful? And Leopold, while we look at our lovely kudu family, just to go back to your question about what would a lion do if a bigger cat came in and showed more dominance. Well, that's what happens with lion coalition takeovers all the time. When larger males come in, they either will fight to the death, or as with what happened with the Matimbas around last year, is they will take off and go to a different area. So they will essentially run away. Now, with all predators, there is a degree of competition. So they compete with each other regardless of species. So for lions, they are the apex predator. They're the biggest cat. So the only thing that's going to be bigger than a lion is another lion in terms of predator hierarchy. So as soon as that dominance displayed or was shown, the male will either choose to fight, in which case if the lion is bigger, they will probably die, or if there are more lions, then they will probably die, or they will move off to a different area. Let's see if we can't sneak forward up on these kudu, since it is such a lovely sighting in the morning sun. and pick out where that male went. I do think they had quite a serious disagreement there. He's definitely courting that one female. And that's why he responded so aggressively. And the kudu's got the most extraordinary bark. A deep "boo" sound. Actually, that was quite good. That sounded like a kudu, sort of. Jeandre is nodding his head. He seems that there was a more passable impression.
No, far better than James would.
All right, little kudu. They're not going to let us get any closer, but we've got lots and lots of kudu that we're seeing at the moment. There's probably, this is something that Brent always says about the fact that when you spot one kudu, if you look closer, there'll be another 5 around it. There's probably, this morning, close to 15 different kudu. And when they do disappear, as they pretty much have, when they do disappear, they've disappeared. They are gone. I'm going to send you back across to Sam, who's having an elephant-themed morning.
So it has been a morning of elephants for myself, Dave, and Elvis the Ellie. We found quite a few elephants, and when we last saw you, we were quite far east, where there were so many elephants. There must have been about 50 of them, and I've never seen a group of elephants get so angry with each other. Well, 3 or 4 of them were sprinting. Me and Dave thought, jeepers, if we were stuck there, could have been quite scary. But look at how sweet this little youngster is. So we've seen already 2 young elephants today. It's our 3rd little young Ellie. So we went back, so we were off the Cheetah Plains, and then we decided, you know what, those elephants were very, very interesting, their behavior. Let's try and see if we can locate on them again from a distance. So we went round to Buffelshoek Dam, and then we decided to come down Nyala Road south, which is just below the dam, and we've come across a whole new family group of elephants. And you can see the tail swinging from left to right, just in front of us, with this female and then the youngster just here playing with his trunk. You can't see him right now. He's going to come across into our screen. You can probably see his trunk just moving around. There he is, hiding behind the bush. They're quite comfortable in this position. If I switch on my car, it will make them feel a little bit uneasy, and really enjoying the sighting of these eddies. Yeah. Yes, James, we've had quite a morning of elephants. I'm glad that you're getting your elephant fix. Dave loves to find elephants because he enjoys filming them. So we've had a very interesting morning of filming elephants doing different things. Actually, let's go to that youngster again. It looks like he's got his trunk around a bark, and he's having quite a fun time just playing with it. As I said, yeah, with young elephants, they can't use their trunks as well as the older parents can, so it's very difficult for them to use them. So it's a lot of practice at a young age to use those trunks. There's the female that just comes behind her, the adult female. And I said earlier that we would talk a little bit more about the difference between a male and a female, so we'll do that as soon as these elephants have passed through. A little bit about the difference between them. But we've been very, very privileged to have elephants where we just see in the background there, and then they come right up to our vehicle and walk past us. It's been fantastic. The young elephant's now getting very close to us. You can really see a good little visual of him as he follows his mom. Well, his mom's actually behind him, it looks. There she is. Still got that strong morning light on her. Looks like she's scratching something behind her ear there. Hello. And while we listen to the elephants making a noise as they break the grasses and break the trees, there's also a number of bird calls. Twisted Princess. There must be a Twitter name. You would like to know if some elephants' tusks are sawn off to prevent anti-poaching. Twisted Princess, I haven't quite noticed or read up on any of that still occurring anymore. I don't think it is, but if it is, I'd quite be interested to know where it is happening. So I'm not too sure, Twisted Princess. But while we're sitting there, we can actually have a two-shot with Mr. Ellie, and the Ellie's in front of. So if no one's met Mr. Ellie, here's the elephant that sits in front of my vehicle. There he is. Hello, Mr. Ellie. And I'm just going to quickly do something for you here. Have a look at that structure there. So when you're looking at the elephants, if it's rounded over here, that's more likely going to be a male. But of course, have a look at where the genitalia is of the male elephant, and that'll also tell you. But with the females, they have a bit more of a dome here. So you'll see it's rounded here, concave. And over here, it's a lot more rigid. It's a lot more like a 90-degree kind of look to the elephants on top. So that's a good way to tell the difference between a female and a male elephant. And that's Old Ellie. And in the background are the Ellies themselves. Incredible. Jamie's with the half-trunk Ellie. Let's go and have a look at how that Ellie's doing this morning.
This is amazing. When I say half-trunked Ellie, I really mean half-trunked Ellie. This is not the female and her little group that we've come to know and love. This is a male. They're very large. I mean, he's a relatively large male. He's a good 30 years or older. And compared to our stumpy-trunked elephant, his trunk is even shorter. Look how he has to hunch his back over to reach down to the ground. And what's so fascinating about this, shame boy, I mean, he's adapted perfectly to dealing with this situation, but look at that. He is not nearly as fussy as other elephants are when it comes to putting soil in his mouth. He obviously can't really afford to be. Most elephants with a normal trunk would have wrapped the tip around the grass or whatever it is that he's eating, maybe some roots, and sort of swiped it along the ground and shaken it in order to get rid of the dirt. But he's adapted to using his feet to kick up the grass rather than using his trunk to pull. So he uproots the grass with his feet, and then he grabs the whole pile with that half trunk of his. It's amazing to watch the way in which these animals adapt to deal with the difficulties that life has thrust upon him. There you go, look at that. It's a whole clump of perennial plants and grasses that he's uprooted. And I mean, he's got half a trunk. He might even have less than half a trunk there. Shame, boy. Wonder what happened to you. Now, there's a couple of possibilities as to why his trunk is like that. One might be that it was caught by a crocodile or another injury in a natural sense when he was younger. Unlikely to have happened while he's fully grown. But the other is, and the most likely explanation is similar to our female with the missing the end of her trunk, and that is that it got caught at some point in a snare that had been put out by people looking to catch bushmeat. Now, that would not have happened here within the Sabi Sands, but of course our fences are open all the way throughout different reserves that stretch right up throughout the northeastern corner of South Africa and into Mozambique or Zimbabwe. It's an injury that might have happened many, many, many years ago, decades ago even, depending on how old he is. But this is incredible to watch, the way in which he has learned to use his trunk. And Grant Rogers was wondering, does an elephant use its trunk for balance as well as for the numerous other purposes that it puts the trunk to use to do? It's an interesting one, Grant. Probably they get very used to having that weight on the end of their face, and to an extent, yes, it is. They sort of balance. Their bodies are adapted to balancing with it. I don't think they don't use it in the same way that a monkey might, or a leopard or a lion might use their tails to balance themselves. Not quite in that sense. But yes, they would certainly be adapted to using it and to... Now, what I've noticed, and what I mean by this, probably the best example I could give is, I've spent many years walking in the bush with a rifle, and a rifle weighs close on about 10 pounds, 10 to 12 pounds in weight. And you get very used to walking with that sort of weight balancing you. So ducking under trees and stuff, you get used to using the weight to counterbalance and to duck. And I suppose it's the same thing as walking with a heavy backpack that you adapt to using. And when I found myself walking without one over long distances, I actually missed having that weight to balance me out. And that's what I mean when I say that an elephant uses its trunk for balance. Look at that. So it's not really balance, it's just that they're adapted to dealing with that weight in the front of their face. So strange. He makes for such a strange image, that missing trunk. He's quite thin. He's not in terrible condition, but he is a little bit thin. Nevertheless, a beautiful elephant. And he won't be... That trunk, whilst it might take him longer to feed, and he's obviously had to learn this technique of moving his foot backwards and forwards to uproot the grasses, it won't disadvantage him in terms of access to females. He's quite a big elephant. He's got nice large tusks. So he would still be able to compete for mating access. Other elephants will not hold his half trunk against him. Well, it's sad to see an elephant with such a disability. Of course, there are elephants further up to the north of Africa that have far bigger problems in their lives, if one could say that. Leopold, you were wondering concerning elephant tusks and ivory. Are we making progress in terms of protecting our elephants? We're incredibly fortunate where we are in South Africa, in that South Africa at this stage does not have a tremendous poaching problem with elephants. Rhino are a different story, but the poaching of elephants is relatively minimal in comparison. Very few elephants are actually killed. The first elephant was poached for 10 years, I think, or in 10 years, about a year and a half ago from the Kruger National Park. It does occasionally happen, but for the most part, South Africa's elephant population is exceptionally robust and stable. And yes, our elephants are well protected. The same can be said of countries like Botswana, Zambia, and Namibia. Those poaching issues, particularly Zambia, things have started to stabilize and the elephant poaching is under control. And there's some incredible initiatives in Mozambique to bring back and protect the elephant population there. I'm thinking particularly around Gorongosa. Further north you go, the more endangered the African elephant becomes, the savanna elephant and the forest elephant. And in certain areas, no, the elephant poaching is not under control. But within South Africa and the area that we are in, we're very, very fortunate to be amongst the presence of these magnificent giants without having to worry too much about them. Oh, what's up, boy? What scared you? Is it a bird? You see that just a slight change in body language? Now, the reason I'm keeping such a big distance from him is because there are actually other vehicles on the road. What I don't want to do is make him feel pressured in any way. So he's already got stress in his life in dealing with that trunk. Oh, look at him resting it there. Natasha in Ontario, we're just going to let some... There we go. That's what I was waiting for. About to say he's going to move off. You were wondering if he would still be able to eat leaves, and the answer is yes, probably. What he will be able to do is pull the branch towards his mouth and then put it into his mouth directly. Guys, I'm just going to reposition so that I can let the other vehicles come past us. So I'm just going to go around a little bit closer to him. He's still nice and relaxed. Cheers, guys. Oh, we're on the main access road, so we're just going to let one more vehicle come past. Here we go. Okay, and now we have our lovely gentleman all to ourselves. Oh boy, it's okay. It's all right, big boy. Don't you want to show Natasha how you can eat leaves? Hey, big boy. There's not an aggressive bone in this elephant's body, despite the situation in which he finds himself. Perfectly calm and relaxed. Let's head across to Sam quickly and have a look at a bird that he seems to be trying to find.
Okay, so myself and Dave have been trying to get a good picture of this bird so we could link and get you all with us, but we thought whenever we get it on frame, it will fly away. So what we're going to do is we know where the bird is. It's in the thicket over there. Let's try it together and see if we can get a quick visual of it. The bird is called a blackback puffback. It's quite a difficult bird to see, and we're going to go slowly and see if we can find it together. Let's do this. It's a very difficult bird to find sometimes. I can often hear it when I'm in camp, and now I can hear it now. So I just saw it fly. Did you see it fly there? Right. So we won't spend long if we don't get it within the next minutes. So if you can just give us a minute to see if we can find this bird. Okay, so all we've got is a minute, everyone. So let's work hard. Let's see what we can find in the tree there. Okay, it's not there. Is that him there? Yes, I think that could be him there. Okay, go down slightly. This is not easy, everyone. We're trying our best to find this bird. He likes to be in the thickets. So if you go in, lock in there now. Lock in straight in. Yeah. I think that could be him there at the bottom. You see like a white body at the bottom there. Actually, no, sorry, that's the tree. That's quite awkward. So let's give it 20 seconds. I can hear him. I know he's in this tree. Okay, so that's a buffalo thorn tree, just in case you didn't know. It doesn't seem that our wonderful blackback puffback is in the tree. These things happen in life. Oh my word, as I look up I see something move. I'm sorry, let's try one last try. There he is. There's a bird there though. It's just too thick, you can't see him. It's gone to the other side of the tree. No, you know what? There, you can see it. There we go. That isn't a blackback puffback. What bird is that? He looks... There we go, beautiful filming there. Have a look at that bird. Look, it could be a sunbird from what I can see through the thicket there. Amazing, great one there, Dave. Nice one. I couldn't get a good look at that, but if I think straight away what that was, greenback camaroptera. That's what I think that bird was. The greenback camaroptera. From a quick glance. Anyway, that was a great sighting. Let's head off and see what else is happening in the bush this morning.
I'm still with our lovely elephant gentleman, just because I'm enjoying his company so much. I'm finding him incredible to watch, the way that he's adapted to use that trunk. We're so privileged to actually be able to spend this time with him as well. Got a big cut flap out of his ear. I doubt that is from around the same time that he lost his trunk. A lot of elephants, most elephants, have damage around the edge of their ears. It's actually one of the ways in which you can recognize individual elephants. Usually comes from just a scratch or a catch on the thorn that then gets a little bit infected and eats away around the edge of this very thin skin of the ear. Now, it's fascinating because his body language is different. All of the cues that I look for, not all of them, but a lot of the cues that I look for when I watch an elephant and I assess an elephant's body language are just subtly different with this gentleman. Obviously, we don't have the tip of the trunk, which can quite often tell you a great deal about an elephant's mood. That and the fact that he needs to rock from side to side in order to feed. So changes the way in which we interpret his body behavior, because usually that rocking, scuffing backwards and forwards would be a sign of being unsettled. But that's not the case with him. He's just having to do that movement in order to feed. He's sniffing at us. The wind changed direction slightly there. We're blowing our scent towards him. He's incredible. He gathers it all together in a pile. He's got that whole movement, that whole motion down to an art form. Oh, that bit didn't go in quite so well. All right, boy. Hello. Theo is watching us almost constantly with his ears open. He wasn't doing that earlier. He's not just cooling himself down. He is keeping a very, very close eye on us. Oh, it's such a strange position to see an elephant adopt, with its head right down like that. Everything's just very counterintuitive with this gentleman. He's also been having a wonderful time at some point rolling in some light-colored soil. You can see how it's all over his one side. I'm going to sit with him a while longer, keeping movements nice and slow, just because I think he's just keeping a close eye on us. While I do, let's go across to James and the spider.
Sounds like an absolutely fascinating time with those elephants there, everybody. This is just an orb web spider, and they've all come out as a result of that little bit of rain that we had the other day. And so there's spiders everywhere. Bryan is covered in them. He looks like a silkworm cocoon as we walk through the bushes here. And this is one of them, an orb web spider. They all come from the same family, but further than that, I couldn't really tell you what he is. Look at him. He looks like a variation of a kite spider. Could well be a kite spider. You can see the kind of sticky outy bits at the back there. And also could be a relative. Oh, you know what it is. I do know what it is. It's a little bark spider. It's a relative of the bark spider. Bryan, if you come around this side, maybe. Or are you happy there? Yeah, it's a bark spider. The bark spider is fascinating. While Bryan comes round, this is a female bark spider, and what she does is that she will normally eat up her web at this time of the day, and then go and sit at the end of the sort of... she'll go and sit at the end of this line. She'll go and sit at the end of the line there, and she'll sort of kind of sit over there, and there she will wait until nightfall, and then she'll come out again and spread her web out. See how she looks like a little piece of bark? But this one might be a different species. I mean, there'll be a number of different species of bark spider. And this particular one seems to be something of a diurnal hunter. But completely invisible unless you really get the light catching the right way. And we know that insects have got very poor eyes, and very simple eyes, and they will not be able to discern the sight of this very delicate silk hanging here, suspended between two combretum bushes. Isn't that amazing? She got something. She looks like a little thorn. You can see there, she looks like a piece of sort of thorny bark. She's got a fly, Bryan. She's got one of your friends. Little fly. Being wrapped up in silk. And that's to sort of prevent her escaping, or it escaping, or being stolen. She will have injected her venom, and that venom will now be acting on the insides of that insect, digesting them from within. Just fantastic. Utterly mesmerizing. You can sit and watch the spider, I tell you, for at least a day and be completely astounded for the entire time. Probably a female. The male will be much smaller, and if it is a bark spider like I think it is, the male will be lurking off on a tree, probably over there, half the size of her, maybe even a quarter, and he'll just kind of sit there and wait for her to come back and greet him when she folds up the web and goes off to rest on a piece of branch that looks exactly the same colour as she is. Isn't that amazing? Righty-ho then. We're going to carry on down here. I'm not sure if we want to go back to the elephant. Do we want to go back to the elephant, or shall we just carry on through here? Alrighty, let's carry on down this way and see what else we can find. So like I was saying, lots of spiders and things have come out. There was that wonderful snail. We've had the dung beetles, and we've had various other bits and pieces that have popped out just as a result of that tiny little bit of rain that we had. And I find it absolutely astounding that 1 millimeter of rain, which is about a 25th of an inch, could have brought out so much stuff. Look at this. While we look at this recently pushed over combretum tree, Marcel, you want to know about those snails and if they're hermaphrodites, or I think you're commenting on whether they are in fact hermaphrodites. They are. Not all snails are hermaphrodites. I think the giant land snail is a hermaphrodite, but they don't breed with themselves. They can't sort of make eggs on their own. They must have a partner. And they put their feet together like that, and they shoot these little arrows kind of into each other to hold each other in place, and then they will exchange spermatozoa between the two snails, and then lay little eggs. I think they lay about 50 eggs during the course of a summer in a hole. And that one was a very small one. They get to about 3 times that size. Now this tree, astoundingly, is not dead. As I pointed out before, you can see it's actually got new shoots. See that, Bryan? So despite the fact that it's been pushed over, it's got new shoots, and those shoots are now growing at a different angle from the angle that they were. It sacrificed bits and pieces of the wood here that will die, but it's going to eventually, one of these new shoots will become the main trunk of this combretum tree. And all the trees out here must adapt in this way to be able to survive with the machinations of the elephants out here. Without an ability to adapt to elephants, we'd be in big trouble. Or we wouldn't be in big trouble, the trees would be in trouble, because there are so many elephants here. Now, Penny, you're wondering about baobab trees and whether we get them here. We don't get baobab trees here. Baobab trees, the southernmost baobab tree occurs just where I used to work, around a place called Nyala, which is about 50 kilometers to the north of us, about 30 miles. That's where the nearest baobab tree is. We're just a little bit too far south. It's a little bit moist out here, believe it or not. If you can't believe that a semi-arid area like this could be too moist for anything. But absolutely, we're too moist for baobab trees. And the most iconic African tree here, of course, is the marula, one of which is here. Let's have a look underneath this particular piece of marula and see what we can find. Now, you've got to do this carefully, of course, because you don't want to put your finger onto a scorpion, which will then sting you, and then you will cry like a small child. Now, there are 2 or 3 organisms here, Bryan. In fact, there are 4 entirely different classes of organism here. This is absolutely amazing. Check this out. There's a centipede. You see the centipede there? Let me just pull that out. There's the centipede just disappearing in there. You can see that. I'll try and dig him out. There he is. Oh. The centipede's gone in there. Okay. There's a millipede there. See that? That's a tiny millipede. Now those are totally different classes of animals. So where they're as different from each other as mammals are from birds, are from reptiles. Then there's an ant, which is an insect, also a totally different class. That ant is carrying away a termite, which is a different family, different order. See? You got that, Bryan? Yep. The ant carrying away a termite that it has retrieved, I suspect, from the dead wood that I've just overturned. Now that ant will be taking its termite very happily back to the nest. And of course the greatest predators of termites are in fact ants, not aardvark or pangolins or honey badgers, but ants. Isn't that amazing? There. I don't know, it seems to be gathering stones. Maybe, I don't know. You're picking up different stones, hey? Very bizarre. Maybe just struggling to move. It does appear to be gathering. Or might be, you know what it's probably doing, is looking for the entrance to its nest. Maybe we've disturbed it and moved it by moving this log. So here's another termite over here. And you see that there? Tiny, tiny termites. Okay. You see them there? Tiny, tiny termites in here. They're about 2 millimeters in length, and they will be eating the dry wood of the marula tree I've just overturned here. Isn't that amazing? Then I also saw an ant lion in here, if you can believe it. It disappeared into this little bit of sand here. So, in summary, we've got 3 or 4 different kinds of insects. Now remember, an insect is not the same thing as an invertebrate. So we've got 4 different classes of invertebrate. We had millipedes from the myriapoda, centipedes from the centropoda, insects from an enormous group called the forgotten exactly what they're called, but it's basically the insect. And there were 3 or 4 different kinds of insects. They're as far removed from each other as you and I are from them, and from a crocodile or a lizard. So a huge amount of diversity just underneath this one little log. Let's head across to Sam. He's got a much larger thing to show you.
Don't you think it's incredible that you could be sitting with something as small as an ant or a termite and then come across one of the largest animals out here in the bush? It's a buffalo, big male buffalo that has left the breeding herd and is now walking around looking for the mud wallows to sit in, as well as to find some water and some lush green grass. So this is where you often find them. They're most dangerous animals on foot. When you're walking, you must be very careful of the buffalo because he's a little bit too old to be able to run away from you. So sometimes fight is the best form of defense that they have out here in the bush. And I will never ever forget when I was walking in the bush once on my own and I came across a buffalo just like this in the middle of the road, and he just walked towards me. He was smelling me and he kept following me, and I had to go and find a thicket to go and basically, well, I walked and then hid in a thicket, and he then eventually left me alone. I'll never ever forget that. So buffaloes can be scary. Here we have a big one. He's got quite a large boss. We were talking about the difference between a female and a male elephant earlier. Having a looking at the boss like we just did, you'll notice that the boss is much bigger in the male than it is in the female. And for any of you that don't know what a boss is horns. So they're the horns of the animal. And there he is. Yes, he's quite old. You can notice that he's lost quite a bit of fur on his back there and around the sides, and that would have been because of age. So that's also a reason why he likes to be in the thick mud wallows, because you could also see a bit of mud around his back there. And sitting in the mud wallows will help protect him from the sun that's going to be very hot. It'll get through the fur there and burn his back, as well as trying to get rid of some of those parasites that might try and jump on top of him, such as the tick. So he seems to be standing in the road. He doesn't look like the happiest of buffaloes at the moment, from what we've perceiving over here, but maybe he's very content. I actually think he's very content. If I think about it, he's got a nice area to be grazing on the grasses, and he looks like he has spent a great deal of time in the water. There's all that mud around him, so I actually think he's content. You know, I reckon it's an early morning, and he's just having a good stroll around his garden. Probably not his garden, his area where he likes to graze, and because there is a pan that's not very far away from here. The pan is called Chela pan. Oh, so there goes the buffalo, and as the buffalo goes, so shall we go. And let's go and find out what Jamie's doing with a carcass.
Jamie is examining, from a distance, mind you, a wildebeest skull that has been dragged to the hyena den. We arrived just to see, because it's been nice and chilly this morning. I sort of hoped that they might still be out a bit later into the morning. Fortunately, the sun suddenly got warm and warmed us up nicely. It means that the hyenas, if they are here at this den site, have actually moved off and are sheltering for the day ahead. This is the wildebeest that James found. When was it? It was a couple of days ago. I can't work out exactly when it was. The sightings almost tend to blur into one. Well, not one, but one large day. So I can't remember which morning it was. You can see just how little meat has been left. And this is such a wonderful toy for a hyena cub. Can you just imagine how they all argued over and fought about who was going to get to chew on it first? The meat is pretty much all gone. There's a lot of carcass flies still feeding off it, and the ants are having a field day as well. But you can clearly see it's been dragged through the dirt a few times and nibbled on by little hyena teeth. The interesting thing about hyenas and taking food back to the den site is that a head like this is going to start, and it does smell relatively bad, and it's one of the reasons why spotted hyenas in general don't drag too much meat back to a den site, because if you've got too much meat, first of all, you're going to have a tremendous parasite build-up, which will only add to the parasite load caused by having cubs running around and about. And also the fact that the smell could well attract male lions, and might be one of the reasons why the cubs haven't been out today, because those lions, when we first found them, were not too far away from where we are now. But generally, if spotted hyenas do take food back to the carcass, they don't take terribly much. That being said, I have seen a matriarch. Sorry, let me turn that down. I have seen a matriarch hyena drag half an impala back to the den site, and what was so interesting about that sighting was that she dragged it back when her cubs were too young to even be interested in eating the meat. So she didn't drag it back for food for them, but what they did do is they clambered all over it and they clambered inside the carcass, but it ended up being herself and the other high-ranking hyenas that fed off it. Only high-ranking individuals within a hyena den will actually bring carcasses or bits of carcass back to a den site. I think what we're going to do is we're going to start heading back towards those lions, just get an idea of where they are now that the other people have moved out of the sighting, so we can get an idea of where they are and spend some time with them. And apparently there is a herd of buffalo not too far away from where they settled down. That might be something that they'd be interested in chasing at some point today. It's getting a little bit too hot. That being said, I'm sure you noticed that they were looking relatively empty-bellied and like they could use a good meal. And even with the limp that the one male has, and I think it was Blondie, I could be wrong, and it sort of looked like it was Blondie, the oldest of the Birmingham boys. Even with that limp, he would still be a force to be reckoned with in terms of hunting buffalo and such things. And just so you know, the reason why I left our lovely elephant gentleman is just because he was a little bit not unsettled, but he wanted to come closer to where we were to feed, and he wasn't quite comfortable with coming any closer to us. So I just moved off to let him come through and enjoy whatever food he wanted to have access to. Back across to James to find out how the morning on foot is going.
We've come down to Lake Treehouse, everybody, this vast expanse of great water. You might just see an interesting reflection in the water there. Can you see that reflection, Brian? Right. A couple of interesting things to show you. If you ever want to go and learn about tracking or how to follow animals, a waterhole like this is ideal because animals leave very distinct tracks in the mud. What we have here is the distinctive track of a duiker, the common duiker. And I can tell it's a duiker because it's round, and it also, well, it's obviously cloven because you might not be able to see it there, but there's a very clearly defined ridge over there. So I think that's a duiker. In fact, it's not a duiker at all because I'm looking next to it, and it's a warthog, much wider, and I think warthogs have come and had a drink over there. They are much wider, and I know that I saw a warthog here a few days ago. Then, if you come and look here, this is quite interesting. Well, here you go, James Richard. You were asking for a giraffe track. Here it is. A giraffe has slipped in here. You can see there, very long foot, very long sort of clove to the hoof, and that is about what's that, Brian? That's about, I mean, it's almost a foot long. It's not quite a foot. That's probably about a foot. So call it 10 inches long is how long the giraffe's foot is here. They do slide slightly when they come into the mud, so that will make the track look slightly longer than it is. But for a giraffe, this is an awkward place to come and drink because he could easily fall over. And there was recently an incident just down south at Londolozi where a giraffe went into a pan like this, fell over and couldn't get up again. And one of our old pals, the Matimba males, ate him. They ate him. There we go. I've got it now. Now, when you're walking around a muddy waterhole like this, as the heat starts to build in the morning, you can see I've taken my jacket off, you've got to watch out for buffalo. This is some of the last standing water and mud in the area. Yesterday we had a buffalo lying just the other side, covered in mud, and buffalo, well, he was just over there. Buffalo will want to be in the mud around this time of the day, so we'll just spend a little bit of time looking around here, and then we'll move away so that the buffalo can come. And if you look in here, Bryan wanted me to walk clean across this mud here, and I refused point blank. Here are buffalo tracks. Over there, and over here is another one, and all around here will be the tracks of buffalo, and the fact that there is this kind of churned up mud everywhere will be a function of the buffalo coming down, drinking, rolling about, pushing their horns into it, and basically acting like giant food processors. It's good mud this, Bryan. Would you like some?
No thanks.
You don't want some?
No thanks.
I will get some anyway, for my own edification. Try not to fall into it. There we go. Now, of course, much like with the Eroglostis tef, which is consumed by people, Western people, on supposedly organic, fancy, healthy, macrobiotic, whatsy-whatsit diets, mud like this is used in various health spas around the world, and people pay lots and lots of money to have the detritus of terrapins, buffalo, warthogs, and various other animals spread on their skins under the impression that it is in fact good for them to have this stuff put on their skins. I've always found this absolutely amazing. I've tried it myself. I've regularly put a sort of dung on my face to try and make myself a bit younger, and it hasn't really worked, you know. It just makes me look totally ridiculous. On we go. There's a wonderful game out here called clay lutter. Yes, now clay lutter, everybody, if you are good at it, is an amazing game where you take a bendy stick, so much more bendy than this, and you kind of redo the mud so that it's a little harder than the mud I had there, and then you flick it. And if you're a young boy growing up on a farm in South Africa, you learn to do that. And if you get really good at it, I mean, you can be pinpoint accurate, and you can send a piece of clay cruising across the bush at probably almost the speed of a pellet, and you can hurt someone quite badly. And I've always wanted to be able to do it, but failed so far. Right, we're heading sort of up towards the ridge crest here. Nothing going on at the dam. Ooh! Look at this. Look, 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 look. Look at that. Sorry, Rebecca, can you go again with that last message? It's called an African violet. Isn't that fantastic? I think that's so beautiful. So few bits of colour left now that we're heading into the winter. And that, I think, has opened up again as a result of those few millimetres of rain that we had the other day. Alrighty, let's head across to Sam. I'm not sure where he is on this wonderful morning. Let's go and find out what he's got. And I'm going to continue walking onto this ridge crest.
Wait.
Welcome everyone, here we are. I've told that you've seen James putting mud on his face. What took him to that level? Where have you been going with James this morning? I don't think you'll see me put any mud on my face. I don't think I need to at this point of time. But I just thought we should sit And we've seen some really big animals today. We've seen the buffalo and we've seen the elephants. How incredible was that interaction between those elephants earlier? It was really cool to see that. And then coming down here and seeing that big buff. And I thought, I actually just want to get out the vehicle and just be out on the earth for a little bit. And I just thought, let's just talk a little bit about what we can see here. We can see a log that's on the floor here and the tree that's just next to it. So I thought, you know, what's the relevance between both a tree and a log that's lying on the ground? And logs provide a whole habitat, a whole niche for different types of animals that will live in there. Much like the spiders you've seen with James and all the small insects you would have seen on the bushwalk this morning, they will live in these logs. So it's not just a dead log on the floor, it is life to so many different insects that will inhabit that log. And much like the tree over here, which is alive, will be home to the different bird species that will be living up here, and just other species that like to be on it, such as ants and all the different caterpillars that you might find out here. So just learning a little bit about how life will use anything out here to inhabit is incredible to learn. And I just went and looked in here, inside that tree bark, and there was marula fruits. This is an old marula that's over here. That has been eaten and then put inside that little cavity over there. So that could have been a tree squirrel that found a little bit of home over there and ate this, which is always nice to see. And yeah, so they like to get to the nut inside the marula, which is really nice. And then I just thought I'd just show you two quick little things here. We've just got a piece of grass. You know, I've often spoken about biomimicry and how we can learn from the natural world and all of the wonder that it has. And the Pterocarpus redanifolia, which is the round-leaf teak that we have over here, has a very, very great way to demonstrate how trees collect water, how trees collect sunlight in its very, very, very many forms. So even if you look at the way in which it is funnel-shaped over there, so if you're interested in learning about how architecture is and the design of systems so that they can capture water, this is our best form of water capture, as well as solar energy, how these leaves in itself are photovoltaics, you know, made from the natural world. So when learning about biomimicry and learning about natural systems, we can learn everything from the genius of a plant to the way in which leaves are on a tree, to even just the way in which nutrients flow from the very, very bottom of plants all the way to the top. How is it that water can get from the bottom and get all the way to the top of these leaves here? And we would have seen that in that little project that I made a couple of days ago on that little plant, on how water is able to be sucked through that cloth, through the hot energy of the sun, to the different parts of the leaf at the top. So nature is inspiring, and it will always be inspiring. It has millions and millions of years, or 3.8 billion years in total that it's been around here for, that life's existed. And there's so much we can learn from it. And I mean, even from an ethical point of view, we can learn from nature and the different designs that exist, all the way down to the emulation, which is the mimicry, how we can design systems for, you know, even especially with different parts of the world where we are experiencing big floods and all that kind of stuff. I'm just putting my earphone in so I can hear any messages that might be coming through. So there's many, many things we can learn from the natural world, from both the smallest things that we can find to the larger trees, and the design of pangolin shells and the design of beetle shells and all the many, many different things. So I'm excited to learn more about it. And if you are, we can learn more about these things and the design of the natural world. But in the time being, let's go and find out a little bit more about hyena dung with James.
Come and look over here, everybody. I've just pieced off this piece of clay. That's about the ideal consistency you want if you want to make a clay lut. Steph says that he's actually a very fine clay lut thrower, so in the next few weeks or so I'll learn how to do it and then I'll show you. But in the meantime, have a look here. This is a pile of very disgusting sort of stuff, and it is hyena dung. And what is interesting about it, first of all, is this tooth over here. So here is a tooth that has been broken up by, it looks like a warthog tusk to me, has been broken up by the hyena, swallowed, and then pooped out. And here's another one, or another piece of whatever it was. Now that's a bone, that's a leg bone, but that is definitely tooth there. And what you can see is that the teeth, the enamel, and the hair, and bits and pieces of the skin are utterly indigestible. If a hyena cannot digest these things, then you can be sure that there is no mammal anywhere that is able to digest them. I suspect you will find various other, perhaps invertebrates, that are able to come and digest bits and pieces of hair. But keratin, from which your hair is made, from which your nails are made, and from which, of course, rhino horn is made, that is indigestible, as is, oh, here's a bit of the hoof. Maybe, yeah, I think it could well have been a warthog. Here's a bit of its hoof, and that's also indigestible, and that was swallowed and came out of the wash with all the hair. So a hyena will swallow it all, and that will come passing through its incredible digestive system and pass out almost unattached. Untouched. What I find so interesting, though, is that something the size of this can travel through a hyena's gut and come out the other end. I find that absolutely almost inconceivable to think about. Something the size of this bone passed through the gut, undigested, and then came out the other end. Isn't that just amazing? So the hyena's digestive system is so efficient that it has managed to suck out every possible piece of nutrients that there is here and not wasted its time doing anything else, and out came the rest of it. Amazing. On we go, Bryan. Now we're heading slowly north towards home. That is because the call of the chin spot batters has attracted me to the inevitable time that is breakfast and seeds that are coming up soon. Are you excited, Bryan?
I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. We've had a long... Ooh, look. Now, 2 days ago, we saw a the Speke's hinge-back tortoise that had come out of the ground because of the little bit of rain. This is where they live. They live in these little tortoise-shaped holes in the termite mounds. I'm 99% sure that what came out of that hole was a Speke's hinged tortoise. And right above it, of course, he's got a very nice pergola spreading, created by a spider. Do you think he sits out there of an evening and in the shade, dappled shade of his very own sort of web, and has a drink?
Obviously.
Probably. Right. While we're considering how the tortoise uses his veranda best, let's go across to Sam. He's got a bird of prey to see.
So a tawny eagle rests up on a branch just in the distance there and is being mobbed by what looks like a roller, a lilac-breasted roller. Very, very interesting behavior. Isn't that an incredible looking bird of prey that you can just see in the distance there? Have a look at that beak, prominent yellow beak. That'll tell you that it is a tawny eagle. And it could very well be hunting right now. So as we sit here, that tawny eagle will be looking below to see if there's anything that it might be able to catch. And if we get the privilege, we might just see it jump off that perch, fly off, and we can have a look at that wingspan and the way in which it flies. That's the way in which we saw it now, myself and Dave. We were just driving, and all of a sudden we just saw these magnificent wings fly above us. And it was the tawny eagle that was flying, and just managed to get into position where we were able to see its beauty. So there it sits. And what was really interesting was watching that bird come in and mob the tawny eagle. It seems that the eagles out here, especially all these birds of prey, do get a lot of admin or havoc from all the different smaller birds, but you can actually notice there in that shot that there's another bird to the right there of that tree. It looks like a starling from this distance. So that's very cool. Just spotted that starling. So we've already got the tawny eagle on our bird list and the starling. And this morning I think we managed to get the green-backed Cameroptera. I hope we did. It is a very, very cool bird. It was either that or the somber green ball. But we just got it through a flicker. Just while we're here, the bird of prey, there's a bee-eater that's just flown right next to us here. I don't know if we're going to have time to get it. If Dave manages to get it. It's a beautiful, it's sitting in the sunlight. It really is. It looks like a little beetle. I can't quite see it. Dave's got it. It's on this plant over here. If you look in there now, you'll see a yellow. Just to the left, up. Oh, it just flew away. No, it just came back to that perch. There it is. Beautiful. So that was, it looks like the yellow bee-eater. I meant not the yellow, the little. Awesome. So from a bird of prey that's still there to a little bee-eater that's just in front of us.
When your bird flies away, it's linked to Jamie with the lion.
So these bee-eaters will be moving and trying to collect all the different insects that are around them. So they're gregarious. That's why we managed to see two there. There's a quick look of the two of them. Aren't they beautiful though? Bee-eaters are one of my favorite birds. I've got many, many different birds. But that was an incredible sighting of a bee-eater. From a bird of prey to an insect-eating bird. Fantastic. Let's go and see Jamie. I think she might just have something exciting for us to see.
We're going to play a game called Spot the Lion. And you can just get a bit of an idea as to why it is that this sighting was so very tricky initially to get to, and why it was that Taxon was struggling to lead everybody in to come and find them, because he followed them from where we left them up into where we are now. Jeandre, did our lion just get up and move? He did. Here we go. Spot the lion. Hidden right in the thickest part of this monkey orange thicket. Now we're going to reposition now, just since our lion has got up and moved around to a different shady spot. Bear with me for 1 second, but you really do get an idea. Now just imagine, I mean, we're looking down at these lions, and we are probably about, not even 10, maybe 10 meters away from the closest one. 10 meters, so 30 odd feet away from this lion. Now just imagine now walking, so your eye level is automatically much lower than the camera is now. Imagine walking through here and coming upon these lions. I can certainly tell you that your adrenaline level and theirs would shoot up to sky-high levels if you were to be surprised. And that's one of the reasons why, if you watch where we walk, we very, very seldom walk through a monkey orange thicket. And if we do, we walk at sort of snail's pace to try and get around. So we're going to shuffle forward a little bit. I did have a perfect hole. I had the perfect position to show you the one lion, but he's moved now into the shade. Hello, boys. Our lion, of course, on foot during the day is most likely 99.9% of the time going to run away from you. Let's see if the view is a little bit better on the other side. Oh, that's not a bad view. Jeandre, I know you're in a tree, but there we go. Closely examining Jeandre. Probably going to be the best view of these wonderful lions that we're going to get. It is truly incredible just how well hidden they really are. But I'm glad that we found them now. because it does give us a very good place to start on this afternoon sunset safari. I was told that there were buffalo about here somewhere. I mentioned that they do have empty bellies, so there's a good chance that they're going to have moved by the time we start our game drive this afternoon. But I don't think they're going to move too far. I actually think that despite the chilly start to the morning, I actually think it's going to be quite hot today. And big male lions, even more so than the females, struggle with the heat. And they'll need to spend a little bit of time, or as much time as possible in the heat of the day, resting up in these shady spots. Amazing. The Birmingham boys no longer the picture-perfect young males that they once were. Lots of scarring all around the ears and the faces. Our lions aren't up too much and aren't going to be going anywhere too soon, so let's head back over to Sam, who's got some warthog.
So just in front of us here we have a warthog that is looking at us with great intent, wants to know what we are doing, who we are. You can quite clearly see the horns, or the tusks rather, of that warthog. There's not one there, there should be two. The second one is just next to it. So now they seem quite comfortable with our distance. We are quite far away from them, and that's why this camera that we've got is so great, because we can view animals that don't like us to be too close to them by getting quite close to them. And you can see it in the long grass. You can see the tail's up now, it's running across the other one. Can't see that one. One we see now, it's just in the thicket there. So I thought there might be three. So let's just get a little bit closer. We've seen one go into the thicket, and now there we go, two. There are three, four. Let's watch them from a distance. Got some piglets there. Very, very cool to see that. So those little piglets must be careful, because a leopard would like to eat those as well as lions. And we know that we've got some lions on the property, not very far away from where Jamie is now. Probably about 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers. But warthogs like to eat the tubes in the ground, so you often see them digging little holes in the ground to get to the tubes that are below the grasses. Now they're starting to walk towards the thicket. So we've ending off with some warthogs this morning. Incredible to spend some time with them. And just before we say goodbye to you, I just wanted to show you on my bird book which bird we thought we saw in the bushes there, because that might confuse you. So this is the one I think that we saw in the bush, the greenback Cameroptera, top right. And the one, there's another picture of it here at the bottom, which is that one over there. So that was the bird I think we saw in the thicket when we were looking for the blackback, or the puffback, which we will see one day when we go looking. Let's go, and we'll see you later, and enjoy the rest of your day. We're going to carry on, and let's go and see how Jamie's doing with those lions. We'll see you later. Thank you, Dave and Rebecca.
It seems as though our one male has taken the opportunity to perform, as Jeandre put it, some Pilates or some yoga. He's not quite as contorted as he was earlier, but he was having a jolly good clean and had one paw stretched out in the manner of all cats that are cleaning themselves, stretched out right behind the back of his neck. It's amazing just how limber these animals truly are. I'm just listening to the Game Drive channel update. It's seems as though there were lions calling around Torchwood. I was just trying to work out where the other males might be and where these two might be heading to, and whether or not they were going to try and join up with the rest of the coalition or not. Sounds as though there were some lions around Torchwood, and last I heard from one of the Arethusa Rangers, there was also a Birmingham boy with the Styx females on Chitwa a couple of days ago. They are relatively scattered throughout their territory, and I think last night was devoted to, after time spent being distracted by the Nkuhuma lioness, last night was a time to devote to patrolling the boundaries, or perhaps not the boundaries, but certainly some of the most important pathways of their enormous territory, just to remind other lions in the area that they are still present and accounted for and not to be trifled with. And that's generally the way in which a male lion will go about defending his territory. Every couple of days, just moving through an area, roaring and calling. And that in its own way is how other lions will work out that a coalition is either weak or has actually vacated an area completely. As soon as that part of a territory goes absolutely silent, no lion calls, no urine scent marking, other male lions will take that as a cue to move into that area. So it's important, and that's what these lions spend, what a male lion spends a great deal of energy upon, is moving throughout an area and just making sure that its boundaries are maintained. It's kind of like, in a way, looking after the fence that separates a person from their neighbors. It's making sure that it's in good condition. Now, Naveed, you were wondering about how many lions there are in this park. And of course, we've got a tremendously large section of unfenced wildlife area here, 4 million hectares, extending right across towards Mozambique and then up towards Zimbabwe and the confluence of the Limpopo River in those two countries. So an enormous, enormous amount. And if I had to guess, we don't know exactly, we don't know 100% accurately, probably somewhere in the region of between 4,000 to 5,000 would be my guess. It is an area famous for having one of the highest, at least partly, one of the highest concentrations of lions anywhere in the world. So there's quite a few lions about. Within our little area, our little piece of paradise, we've got 2 different prides that we see regularly, 4 that we see occasionally, and then the main dominant male coalition that we've got 50% of here on this sunrise safari. It'll be interesting to see where they decide to go this afternoon and if they're still settled in this particular patch of shade. Lots and lots of fresh buffalo tracks and lots of fresh buffalo dung. So breakfast could be just a couple of meters into the bush, and you can imagine it would be easy for a lion to sneak up on a buffalo in this kind of vegetation. But we have run out of time for our sunrise safari, so we will just have to wait until this afternoon to find out. And just by the way, for an update on that baby hippo last night, I didn't hear anything from any of the other guides. So as far as I know, the Tsalalas were unsuccessful in catching it, but I will follow up and let you know this afternoon on the sunset safari. Thank you, Jeandre, as always, for your fantastic camera work and for putting up with being in a silver custard leaf tree. Looks terribly comfortable. It's sort of resting gently on Jeandre's head as he operates the camera. Thank you to Rebecca and to Lou in final control for keeping all of us in line, making sure that we bring you the best possible safari. But most importantly, thank you to you all for joining us across the world, sending through your questions and your comments. Have a fantastic day, and don't forget to join us for the sunset safari. Bye-bye.